All right, this might be another long one, so stick on your 2x speed or settle in. And I'm gonna share my 2 cents now about what I see happening. Um, I look at what I hear from what's going on in Ireland from the Irish people direct, and all of you commenting on the videos is is there's this idea that you're going through this entirely by yourself, and uh, that it's unique. And uh, this is what I want to get across to you. You're literally going through what we were going through in the US like 3 years ago, and it's heightening 2 years ago till last year. And is the reason why there was this sweeping vote for Donald Trump. So now, if you're wondering about my feelings on him, it's very mixed. So I have always been an independent, which means that I've never fully agreed with, and unfortunately, we really only have a two-party system here, which is super frustrating, but I've never really fully agreed with the Democrats. I've never really fully agreed with the Republicans. I always felt like the middle just made more sense. So I couldn't understand why there was like this polarization. But I understand it now. And I understand that the globalists, or whatever you want to call them, the deep state, or whatever that is, right? Control both sides. I really do. And it's become even more evident who that is in this administration. So when I say that, do I think there's some things that Donald Trump is doing right? Actually, yes, I do. Do I think that the left is causing a lot of noise and pushback on the wrong things to distract? Yes, I do. Are there things that Donald Trump does that I do not agree with? Absolutely. So, to give you some historical background on why I'm relating this to Ireland, is that a few years ago, our borders were wide open. And the crazy thing is that most Americans didn't even know. And when people started to try to cover it, like on the news, or get the word out there that this was happening, they would get like shut down, told them that they're racist, that people that are refugees are welcome here. Like there was a whole rhetoric, okay? But the thing is that how we're broken up into states. Each state kind of has their own laws, but are superseded in general by federal law. But states are allowed to have their own laws as well. So people in Texas, on the borders of Texas, were like screaming like, oh my God, this is so insane. The state of Texas is like, well, how are we supposed to like take care of all of these people? And so like all these people's farms and towns and all of this stuff was getting overrun. And so how it really started to make news is that the state of Texas started like shipping all of these people to what were called sanctuary cities in the US. So I'm not like fact checking myself, so you can look this stuff up yourself. I'm just telling you it as a story, okay? And this is what I saw happen. So then all these sanctuary cities started housing all of these people, and the same thing that you're seeing in Ireland was happening here. It's just the US is bigger, right? So there was a lot more, and then there's a lot more places to kind of spread out. But they weren't really spreading out, right? Like they were being sent to these sanctuary cities, everything being paid for, being put up in hotels. That's why New York City was having like an absolute fit. These tent cities were going up, like all of the things. And so really the American people were kind of like, what the hell? Because it was like these were not okay. To give you a background story. I lived in Medellin, Colombia, when there was a huge influx of Venezuelans into Colombia because of what was going on in Venezuela, or Venezuela is how they say it. So Venezuela, right? And so you saw Venezuelans everywhere, and they were welcome. And it was obviously people that were refugees. It was families, and it was whole families together. And whole families together would be like, sitting on the side of the street and selling little like cookies and gum and stuff like that to try and make money. Like, I never saw anyone just like straight out begging there. Okay. And like then you would see like young Venezuelan guys like doing acrobats and stuff like that on the street. Like that's, or like even if they were at a stoplight and they would, walk around with a sign, like everyone always was giving money. I always gave them money all the time. Like you would see people that would go and buy meals and then give them meals, and any homeless person a meal. We all did that. It's like a cultural thing. That, and people were coming in. If you saw the videos, people were, there was lines and all, but those were clearly refugees, right? And the people that were being lined up and coming through on the US, okay, yeah, there were like some people that you would see with kids, but then there was like we had a whole thing with the cartel, right? And the cartel, like, their number one way of making money now isn't necessarily drugs, it's selling people, so kids. And so, but most of the people that you saw coming through and that people started to notice is that they were all what they would call like army age men, military age men. And they were coming from all over the world. So they were getting shipped from all over the world into Mexico and apparently Canada too, and pouring through the borders. And that seemed really weird. And that's what I want to really impart to the Irish people that have come onto this channel and are sharing your thoughts and wanting that support and encouragement. Some of that support and encouragement is information, because I know from living in different places around the world, like, you get different information, and the only places I've really been where the news is not like super heavily skewed is in places like Colombia and Indonesia, which you would think that it would be, but it's not. Like, and again, those kind of places, you're not seeing this kind of stuff, right? So there's something to be said for that. And I did coaching, and I worked with micro gyms, and I was doing that. And so I was doing like entrepreneurial mindset coaching with all these micro gyms around the world. And when I was doing that was also through COVID. So I had clients in the US, I had clients in Mexico, I had clients in Canada, I had clients in Europe, in the Middle East, and New Zealand and Australia. So it was a fascinating time. And in the UK, it was a fascinating time because I got to hear firsthand through all of 2020 and 2021 and 2019, but that's not relevant right now, how each country was dealing with COVID. And it became very clear, like, this was a test to see who would comply. Because the vast difference in how someplace like Texas or a place in Florida in the US would deal with something was completely different than my clients in the Netherlands. And I felt really bad for my clients in Australia. So it seemed very clear that this was a compliance test. And, that was eye opening for sure. So I'm afraid I was sounding a little bit on the conspiracy kind of side, but it's not a conspiracy. I think that is the whole thing. Is there's this That's what they do. There's this saying, right, of that the darkness hides in plain sight. And so everything that they do, they tell you, and they do it right in front of you, and you can see it. But then they gaslight you into like, well, what you're seeing is not true. It's not real. And so that's what concerns me when I do see some people on the comments that are like, everything's fine, Ireland is great, blah, blah, blah. Well, there are people here that were saying the same things, even though everyone was heavily struggling, heavily struggling. And the violence was not covered, but was a lot, was a lot. And that violence was like, and happening to a lot of Indigenous women, for example, or a lot of Indigenous women and Indigenous kids are disappearing. And, it's happening. And that was just part of it, right? Like some of the stuff is starting to come out now, but maybe it never will because it was all over. So, I know that it is scary and frustrating, and there is a question, like if it is all these military age young men, what I could never understand was who like gave them the direction of where to go and how to get to Central America, and who paid for that, and then know exactly what to do and where to go and all the stuff. It didn't make any sense. And then get here, and it was like you're not allowed to work because they're not citizens, right? And so they're not allowed to work, but there was like no incentive to work because everything was paid for plus some. So I don't know, I have a lot of thoughts on what I think all this is about. Not sure I'm brave enough yet to put all that out onto the ethers, but I think you're getting an idea of what I think. And I think the other thing that has always bothered me about this is that the parts that trigger you into empathy and kindness are the things that are the very things that they exploit. And so to me, you look at a nation like Ireland where it's, there's such an innocence to the people, and that's not bad. And you see the same thing in the native tribes here and in, Aboriginals in Australia. Like you see the same thing. Like there's an innocence with the people. And it's because there's been thousands of years of built on a law that is through what feels right. And these people, globalists or whatever they are, right, that you want to call them, literally that's what they prey on. That's what they prey on. And a side note of that is, I got scammed badly um, a few years ago, which totally changed the trajectory of my life in a way that was really hard, really hard. And that's also how they were able to steal everything from me, was they they know how to trigger and prey on your innocence. So, um, just be warned that no matter what direction Ireland decides to go in, these powers are on every side, or try to get a hold of every side, unless you can find someone that's like really from the salt of the earth, or whatever you want to call it, from the, you know, farm in Roscommon or whatever, right? Um, you've got to find someone who is not corruptible and who has nothing to hide, you know. Um, and just be warned that they're going to prey on your kindness and twist your words and twist your thoughts and twist your beliefs into you starting to doubt and question yourself. And, like things with, trans people, or like that's the big one that they are always like harping on here. I don't know about there, but like, trans people. And it's like, I've known many trans people in my life. They're like, I don't have a problem with them at all. They can do whatever they want. And, I'm in a psychotherapy program. Like, we're trained on pronouns and using all the pronouns. Honestly, I don't give a shit. If someone wants to be called they, them, like, fucking go for it, Um, sure, if I slip up, just remind me, like, it doesn't bother me. But when it becomes where you're afraid, and it becomes where parents no longer have, control over if their kids want to transition or not, I think that's wrong. I think it's wrong. And I think it's crazy that I would even have to defend that I think that's wrong. And that's the danger. That's the danger, is they get you squabbling about these things that aren't that big of a conversation. And there's there's the logical center point in there. Um, and, for that matter, I think that I don't think, I know they have the technology. They've had it for a long time to basically put infiltration into, the news and the way they do the news, so that, like, if, I saw this when I was coaching in 2016 and all through that period of time, like, especially when there was the election. I guess it was 2016. Well, anyways, where I would be talking to clients and I would know immediately the ones that were watching mainstream media all the time, because they would be like crazed, like literally crazed, at the even thought of Donald Trump. And I was like, okay, like, all right, there's some things about him that are not likable, but like, I wasn't watching mainstream media, so I wasn't having the same reaction. I was having what I would consider more of a normal reaction of like, well, I don't like that, but that's okay, and I don't like that, and that's okay, and that, so it was like, okay, this is just getting weird. Yeah, so I think there's So a cautionary tale in that as well, and I think most people are aware of that. Um, but again, like, I am just more go riffing off of what I'm seeing from, like I said, this kind of eagle vantage point, and there's something to that. So in the native community, there's a story of like eagle vision versus mouse vision, right? And the mouse vision is when you're right up in it, and you can just see what is around you. And that eagle vision is, as you know, like being able to see that from the big picture and looking down. And so that's where I'm at, right? Like I really want the conversations going. And if my channel, because I'm not right there in the mix, if that helps to stimulate the conversation, and like I was saying, like I sharing ideas, coming to some common ground, people waking up and finding a solution, whatever that may be. I have my ideas that I think that would work great. I think Ireland should be sovereign. I really do, because I don't see, especially from being around a lot of people from Europe and during COVID, from all over Europe and Russia for that matter, and Ukraine. So this is all pre-Ukraine war. Like, you could see in action, you could see how it was happening, that the same things that were controlling the US that we were seeing 2 years ago is what's controlling Europe, is what's happening to New Zealand and Australia, is very strong held in Canada, and that you cannot trust anything that the media is telling you. Like, you really can't. And so all you can do at this point is trust what we've always done, of what feels right, what is just, and what actually makes sense, and not allowing these people who are masters at using your own goodness against you. So that's my soapbox for today. I would love to hear your thoughts. I welcome them. I welcome this channel to hopefully be a place where everyone can openly discuss and express. And, I've been called a cod swallop. That was a new one today. Which is fine. I would rather some constructive criticism, thank you, but whatever, I can accept codswallop. So maybe I gave you a load of codswallop today too. But I would love to hear your thoughts. I know that there is a gathering on Saturday, and I fully support you and whatever that is. And I'm here, and I'm here to be an open place to stimulate ideas, whether you agree with them or not. Ideas are ideas, right? And hopefully they breed together and make better ideas. So I hope this becomes a place for that. Anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like and follow for more. Bye for now.